But first, I want to ask you the question, like, when did you go from being a cage fighter to a demon slayer? How did that play out? Were you a believer as a professional cage fighter? Did that happen after? Just tell us how that transition unfolded.
Actually, I've been a believer since a very young age. My grandfather and my mom kept me really close to God, but not until, I started dating my wife now, Sunshine. She explained to me about Jesus and what Jesus did, because my grandfather, I learned about God in like Vietnamese, right? So in Vietnamese, when you say God, it's Chúa, but when you say Jesus, it's Chúa Giêsu. So I kind of got those two mixed up, because when I came over here, I left Vietnam under like a week before the fall of Saigon, and with my grandfather, because he was former chief of police, we were able to be blessed to be airlifted out. But we stayed in three different refugee camps: one in the Philippines, one in Guam, and one in down by Monterey. But my granddad he was very, like, he prayed all the time, made sure that he was home for dinner to pray. Just watching him and studying everything that he did for the family, now that I look back, I feel that because of him, I stayed close to God. But not till recently, like in the last 4 years, I learned more about Jesus, and I realized that, yeah, Jesus died for us. And with the relationship that my wife and I have, we kind of base it back, and we go way back to Adam and Eve. And so with everything going on, after I retired from fighting, then when I started, dating my wife now, that's where the first exorcism took place, where one of my sponsors had a fiance and asked us for help, because I started their Instagram called Spiritual Battles Worldwide, because I was so fascinated with, my wife's mother, who had over 400 exorcisms and all successful. So I started Instagram for them, and my wife was all for it. And next thing you know, a week later, we were off on our first exorcism, and it was different. It was like when we were going, it was like a last minute thing, and it was 9 o'clock at night, and we had to drive 3.5 hours. And I brought along my son. At the time, he was 13 or 14, and then we just went. And while we're going, we're like reading Psalm 91, and we're like a family of like, whoa, let's go. And when we got there, I was like, oh, 20 minutes, what's happening? And then I remember, follow the instructions. My mother-in-law said, okay, if you hear something at the door, knocking at the door, and you peek out through the hole, don't open it if there's no one there. If it's something smells rotten or something on fire, don't worry. It's just demons. And then, she told me a little bit of what I need to do, like rules of engagement, and let her and my wife handle the exorcism. And my job was just to keep my buddy who sponsored me out of, interfering with the exorcism. And for my first time, it was very intense. It was like you get all the goosebumps, you hear all the loud screams, and everything was so intense, and everything was more heightened, because you can feel the room, the air in the room was very heavy. Things around the house, like the house was just like, things were like clicking, cracking everywhere. And it was intense. But after we were done with that, and after what I saw with my own eyes, I became like, when's the next one? Let's keep doing this. It was like my calling. And from there, 90 cases later, 4 years later, we're able to help people who's been cursed, who's, by black magic, voodoo. It's just so amazing to feel the presence of the Holy Spirit when you're exercising out demons, and it's just intense.